Dr. the Honorable Ewart F. Brown, Premier of Bermuda, who arrived in Bermuda just an hour or two ago from London, having headed the Overseas Territories headed the Bermuda delegation, at the Overseas Territories Consultative meeting in London. Welcome back, sir. Welcome home. And Mrs. Brown, the Honorable Paula A. Cox, Minister of Finance, Deputy Premier also, who, with the Premier, returned tonight from the meeting in London. The Honorable Wayne Ferbert, the Honorable Wayne Parent-Chief. I had promised Ms. Thomas that at least 5 minutes would pass before I committed my first faux pas. It was within the first 5 seconds. Minister, I humbly apologize. There shall be no further faux pas this evening. The Honorable Wayne Parent-Chief, Minister of Community and Cultural Affairs, other ministers of the legislature, other members of the legislature, parents, teachers, friends. I am honored, deeply honored, to serve as co-compere for the Premier's Concert 2006, a task made so much more enjoyable because of the presence of Bermuda's inimitable doyenne of the arts, Miss Ruth Thomas, my co-compere. Welcome, Ruthie. That's one of the few occasions when we get to kiss publicly.
All the world's a stage upon which we all have a part to play. We are delighted and honored to play the role of hosts on this stage this evening, where you will see some of Bermuda's outstanding young people playing their part. They are persons who are deeply involved in various segments of the arts.
Ruthie, as many in the audience will know, we are former school teachers. You touched the lives of people, young people, at the very early stages of their development, at the preschool and primary school level. And I suppose I honed my art at the secondary level. But I think we share, and as we reflect upon our teaching experiences, we probably are in accord when we say that the arts are as vital a component in the education of young people as your traditional 3 R's, as the reading, as the writing, as the arithmetic, as we used to say, as science, history, literature, my great love, languages, logic. In fact, the arts have the potential to mold a strong sense of the humane. Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree with that, yes. Because without the arts, life would be less tame and perhaps would not make sense. Our values, those values that facilitate the development of good human beings, may be found in the arts, nourished by the arts, and expressed through the arts.
Mr. Premier, Mrs. Brown, ladies and gentlemen, this evening's concert will provide us with the wonderful opportunity to witness how approximately 112 of Bermuda's finest young people have been nourished by the performing and visual arts. But before what promises to be an absolutely memorable evening of the arts, we invite to the stage the Honorable Wayne Parent-Chief, Minister of Community and Cultural Affairs, in order that he might offer words of welcome. Mr. Minister.
Our Premier, Dr. the Honorable Hewitt Braun, JPMP, and Mrs. Braun, fellow cabinet ministers, spouses, and guests, I believe the opposition leader may be here. In any case, I'm welcoming the opposition leader, Mr. Wayne Ferbert, and Mrs. Ferbert, other members of Parliament, parents, teachers, and performers. Compare Mr. Robert Horton, Compare Ms. Ruth Thomas, MBE, invited guests, and friends all. Good evening and welcome to the 22nd Annual Premier's Concert. This evening, not only will we witness some of Bermuda's most talented young performing artists, we shall also be provided the opportunity of viewing the works of some budding young visual artists as well. This is a first for the Premier's Concert, and I am pleased that the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs has been able to include representation from the visual arts also. Tonight, I am excited to be here to experience the artistry that will be displayed by all of these young people, and pleased to share this moment with so many proud parents and family members, dedicated teachers, and supporters. This is a fine example of what partnership between parents, children, and schools of the arts can achieve. I offer tonight's performers my sincerest congratulations on being invited to perform for us. You have my continued best wishes for your future training in the arts. Yehudi Menuhin noted that artistic creations are powerful, transforming forces. And there is documented research which informs us that young people who actively participate in the arts, be it music, dance, or the visual arts, also do well in academic disciplines. Moreover, the arts are formative because those young people who are exposed to and study an art form not only develop a tremendous appreciation for the arts, but are also able to reap rewards that enhance their emotional and intellectual growth. The government of Bermuda believes in and is committed to valuing, developing, and celebrating all of our children. And we recognize the vital role that the arts play in transforming and nurturing our youth. And they are this country's future. Tonight, the performers will fill the spaces with beauty through dance, music, and the visual arts. They will, through their artistry, transport us to those beautiful places and in the process be transformed themselves. We will behold the beauty in the arts. Our spirits will be uplifted. But let us be also mindful of the hard work, perseverance, and dedication that our performers have exemplified in order to reach this moment. Because these performers have worked with their hands, their heads, and their hearts, they are indeed, according to St. Francis of Assisi, artists. We are grateful to all of those persons who have worked hard to make this evening possible. A very special thanks to Mrs. Heather Whalen and the staff of the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs, especially Renee Thomas, Angela Todd, and Rajette Simons for their work. To our young people who are the stars of this gala occasion, do enjoy your moment in tonight's spotlight. You've earned it because of your hard work, your sacrifice, and your dedication to perfecting your art form. Thank you to parents and teachers for cultivating, nurturing, and polishing these extremely talented young people. Please know that as we applaud your son or daughter's performance, that we are also acknowledging your part in their development as well. We are also most appreciative of the efforts of all those who have been working behind the scenes. We are grateful to the principal, Mrs. Michelle Simmons, and to our facilities manager, Mr. Dave Butterfield, for assisting us at short notice and accommodating our needs. Special thanks to the technical coordinator, Mr. Richard Lathan, and his efficient technical staff who spent many hours preparing the stage to ensure that you, the audience, can truly appreciate the beauty that our performers will display tonight. Do enjoy the program. Compere and Comer, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, may I ask that you check your cell phones to ensure that they have been turned to... Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening's program will commence with the harmonious, the indeed angelic voices of the St. John's Youth Choir singing "He's Watching Over Israel" and "In a Monastery Garden." Two works that technical difficulties. Uncle, testing. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening's program will commence with the harmonious, the indeed angelic voices of St. John's Youth Choir singing "He's Watching Over Israel" and "In a Monastery Garden." Two works that formed a segment of the repertoire of the Youth Choir's Heritage Concert in May of this year. The choir was formed some years ago and now comprises more than 60 members, ranging in age from 8 to 18. Rehearsals are held every Friday evening at St. John's, Pembroke, from 6 until 7 p.m. Whilst membership is free and open to all children, persons selected to join the youth choir must be prepared to attend all rehearsals. Dedication and punctuality are key, notes the choir's director, Mrs. Marjorie Pettit, who explains that her main objectives are to teach the art of singing, to expose the young singers to as many musical styles as possible, and to help the singers to explore the vast range of classical music. Mr. Premier, Mrs. Brown, ladies and gentlemen, the St. John's Youth Choir, under the baton of Mrs. Marjorie Pettit, with Mrs. Andrea Hudson at the piano and members of the Menwin Foundation on strings in performance.
you, St. John's Choir. Thank you, Mrs. Pettit. That was just wonderful. Mr. Horton called them angelic. Don't they sound like angels? I wonder what mums and dads think. And so there's enough my angels up there. Robert, you know, right now, while the Menyon Foundation is leaving, oh, you're staying, are you? Okay. I wonder if Miss Dietz is going to sing then before they move the risers. Yeah. We were going to have the risers moved first. Well, let's see. Well, perhaps we'll go on and fill the space until we think they're ready, Robert. We have to fill this empty space with lots of chatter. Let's reminisce a bit, shall we? Remember the first Premier's concert? It was held, ladies and gentlemen, in the Bermudian Hotel. Some of you here, if you're in my age group, you'll remember the Bermudian Hotel.
Where was it, Ruthie? I don't remember.
He's just a youngster. And the room was a beautiful room, but it was a rickety old stage. But Merle Brock Swan Williams helped us out. She lined the room with about 6 or 8 beautifully decorated Christmas trees because the concert was held in December. And these, I think, are parents of the choir members leaving now. And at the end of the concert, we sang Christmas carols, and the hotel fed us eggnog and Christmas crackers and mince tarts and Christmas pudding. It was just wonderful. But those were the days.
Yeah, Ms. Thomas referred to rickety stages at some of the Premier's concerts that we have done. And if you see me looking carefully left, right, and behind me on occasion, folks, it's because some years ago when the concert was at the old Ruth Seaton James Auditorium, in the midst of performance, there was a calamity of untold proportions when the compere crashed off the stage. Thank goodness there's a doctor Premier in the house. Stand by in case that happens again, sir. So I will not move.
We just saw him disappearing off the stage.
Loudly. As we reflect upon past Premier's concerts, we recall some of the extraordinary talent that we have seen on stage. Young people who have gone on to real greatness in the realm of music and other forms of the arts. Some that jump to mind are Mark Lomas, and many of you will know him. He later studied music at the prestigious Juilliard School of Music in New York and is now a professional musician in the United Kingdom. As I walked into the theater this evening, Ruth, I saw Luann Wainwright,
Oh, yes.
whose beautiful voice probably graced more than 1 or 2 Premier's concerts, and she, having taught at one of the government primary schools, is now, I understand, the education officer with responsibility for gifted and talented programs in the island schools. And then there was Christopher Darrow, Brian Swan, and Professor Brian Seamers, each a brilliant musician in his own right, and each has accomplished really great things in his sphere. And then there's Sophie Cannoneer.
Sophie's here tonight.
Sophie
She's here.
Cannoneer, a dazzling dancer.
She danced in the first concert, I think, the very
The very
first one.
first? Oh, there she is. Hi, Sophie. She, of course, studied at the Harlem Dance School, and also, I think, had the great privilege of dancing with the very great Arthur Mitchell. She was certainly under his tutelage.
She
was one of our finest.
She also danced for the Queen, Queen
Gosh.
Elizabeth, when she visited Bermuda in 1994. And Sophie brought from New York with her 2 male dancers, and they danced in very, very tight, skin-colored outfits. So as they walked out...
Ruthie, why do you remember that detail? Goodness, this is a very respectable Premier's concert.
I'm trying to keep it clean. As they walked out to perform, it looked as though they were nude. And the Queen lost all her poise and composure. She bent down and grabbed her purse and dug in and got out her glasses, put them on, and did that.
Surely not Her Majesty.
Oh, Her Majesty.
I'm just looking for a cue from...
Are they ready for us yet? Are you ready for us? Maybe not. Let's go on. Well, there was Kenneth Amos. He was a tuba player, and Kenneth was in one of the early Premier's concerts. And right now, he's a professor of music at Boston University, and he teaches at the conservatory there. He is a member of the Florida Orchestra. He had his own brass band, which performed here in one of our winter festivals. He's played in Japan frequently. He will be at the Kennedy Center next month. I think his mother's in the audience. And yesterday she gave me a book that he helped to compile. It's sort of a guidebook for musicians. Oh, Kenneth has just done so much in the realm of music. He's just been a wonderful young man. And you know, he's one of his early music teachers, Mrs. Olivette Birch Morris, who is now 90 years old, has been teaching music for about 50 years, and she is still teaching music. She had hoped to be here tonight, but she's not feeling well. But she still has about 12 piano students. But she got Kenneth Amos started on his musical journey. Well, they should be ready for us now.
And Ruthie, as you recalled for us the names of many of those Bermudians who have acquitted themselves superbly in the realm of music and other areas of the performing arts, it forces one to recall that it's probably impossible. I would challenge anybody to find another community anywhere in the world of 65,000 people approximately that can produce the range and the depth of talent that we can produce here in Bermuda. We are so proud of our young people.
Yeah.
And they deserve our applause.
And they have wonderful teachers like the Bermudian Foundation teachers on the stage, Mrs. Andrea Hudson at the piano, Mrs. Marjorie Pettit, who was here a while ago, and many other teachers. They're very, very fortunate.
The best of the best. And now we have had the cue, this performance to me will commence. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Carrie Lynn Dietz, a former student of Mount St. Agnes Academy, is a 20-year-old mezzo-soprano who truly loves opera. In fact, her greatest ambition is to audition at opera houses throughout the world, Europe in particular. Currently, Ms. Dietz is a student at the Royal Academy of Music in London, one of the most revered music education establishments in the world, established almost 2 centuries ago, and I quote, to promote the cultivation of the science of music and to afford facilities for attaining perfection in that realm. And that is where Ms. Dietz is privileged to study, and it is believed that she is the first Bermudian to study voice at this world-renowned institution, and she deserves our congratulations in that regard. It has been said of Ms. Dietz that she has the intellect, the purity of voice, the drive, stamina, and the nerves that the study of opera demands. Additionally, she has the warmth that allows her to connect emotionally with her audience. She will sing this evening an aria from Gluck's opera Orfeo and Eurydice. As the story goes, Orfeo descends to the underworld to search for his love, Eurydice. He's warned not to look upon her as he leads her back to earth. Alas, he ignores the warning, and she's forced to return to Elysian fields. Thus, he sings the tragic and hauntingly beautiful aria, I've Lost My Eurydice. Miss Dietz, this evening, Ms. Dietz will be accompanied by Ms. Andrea Hudson at the panel. This is a script change. I do beg your pardon. And again, the Bermudian Foundation. Mr. Premier, that's a doctor, that's permitted. Mr. Premier, Mrs. Brown, ladies and gentlemen, we present mezzo-soprano, Miss Carrie Lynn Dietz.
Diversity characterizes this evening's concert. The eclectic mix transports us from classical music to jazz, classical dance to modern dance, from the 9-year-old to the 21-year-old, and from paintings to photography. It is to this segment, that is the visual arts, that we now turn our attention. We shall see paintings by Kamala Alameen and Charnel Painter, both students of Mrs. Gail Palazzo here at the Berkeley Institute. We shall see photographs taken by Lucy Hollis and paintings by Najan Hollis. By the way, they are not related. We'll start with the works of Charnel Painter. Let me just tell you a little bit about this young lady. 18-year-old Charnel, as I said, a former Berkeley student, is a young woman of quiet reserve and regal poise. Her art teacher, Mrs. Palazzo, says the following about Charnel. She has an unassuming persona that is calm and mannerly. She is one of the most pleasant people to be around, yet one can seldom tell exactly what she is thinking. However, she will hear every word you speak and notice every nuance of every move you make without ever letting you be aware that she is observing you very closely. She absorbs information like a sponge. Now, what she does not show in a flamboyant outward appearance, she expresses in her art. She creates from a depth of inner expression that explodes with vibrancy on her canvas. She is a gifted artist who has the natural ability to take a concept and interpret it into a vision of thought-provoking beauty. Her work, be it a painting, a drawing, or sculpture, expresses profound thought. Charnel loves children and has taken a keen interest in the world around her. She demonstrates this through her art. She is a high achiever, and according to her teacher, she is one of Bermuda's best up-and-coming visual artists. And simply put, says her teacher, she is just one of Bermuda's bests. What a wonderful tribute to come from a teacher. And now we'll see 3 of Charnel's works. The screen will come down in a minute. There we are. This first one of hers is, this is called Face in the Eye of the Storm. You can see that this really is a deep thinker. May we have the second one, please? This one is entitled Bride of the Sahara. She loves color, bright colors. And her third painting is untitled. It's just a very strong face that is full of strength. Those are 3 of this painter's works. And now let me tell you about our second artist, also a student, a former student here at the school. When you are in the presence of this young lady, Kamala Alameen, you will know that you are with a young woman who has a definite sense of self. She exudes self-confidence and has an inquisitive, quick mind with just as quick a tongue to match. Her teacher has said If you are teaching her, you better be sure of what you are doing because she will question everything. She has a natural artistic ability. She is very direct and works with assurance. At times, she is a little impatient and therefore works with a need for immediate results. Yet she incorporates the details and exact information that make you want to look a little longer at her work to make sure that you didn't miss anything. Her paintings and drawings are well crafted and reflect her personal interests, her spirituality, and her need to explore the medium she's working in at the time. She especially likes to explore faces, capturing all of their expressions. She also likes to show people's culture. This young lady has drive and motivation and gets the job done well. She is currently abroad at university, where she's concentrating on the visual arts. When you see her works, you'll probably detect a mischievous twinkle in the eyes of her subjects. Please, may we have Camilla's paintings. Isn't that beautiful? Very strong. I just love that one. There were so many of her works, it was very difficult to choose, but this is one of my favorites. May we have the next one, please? See the eyes there, aren't they mischievous? Isn't that beautiful? You can see how she captures the expression on the faces. And her third one, you recognize this person, of course, Bob Marley. And those are Miss Ella Means' paintings. Now, we couldn't call on those two ladies because, as I said, they're away at university. But their parents are here, and I'm going to ask their parents to stand now and just take a bow. They're somewhere in the, yeah. Thank you. And now we're going to look at some portraits. Portraits by Lucy Hollis. She's our third budding artist. She's a 19-year-old photographer. And her interest in and passion for photography were sparked from the age of about 14 by both her father's and her grandfather's longtime interest in photography. She has gained recognition locally through various competitions, including the annual BAMS Photo Contest, and she has exhibited several times at the Bermuda Society of Arts. Her most recent project has been the undertaking of the photography for the 2007 National Trust calendar. Lucy has just started studying at University College in London, England, for a degree in geography. After completing her schooling last year, when she received the International Baccalaureate Diploma, Lucy spent close to a year in South America volunteering in an orphanage in Peru. She was there for about 7 months, which were followed by 2 months in the Galapagos, or Galapagos, however you say it, islands, where she was a volunteer on a conservation project. While in Peru, she lived with a Peruvian family, and on her weekends off from her orphanage work, she had the opportunity to see some other parts of Peru, visiting small villages deep in the countryside and trekking in the Andes Mountains. Tonight, Lucy's photographs will give you a glimpse of some of her favorite sites in Peru. Included in what you'll see of her works will be some girls, a boy from Andine, a woman in a field, or women in a field, a market vendor, a llama herder, some knitters, and a boy knitting, and you will see some islanders. May we have Lucy's portraits, please? Photographs. She really has an eye, I think. Yeah. This is the marketplace. A llama herder. Very strong face again. This is a boy knitting. And these are just some of the islanders. Thank you. Lucy's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Hollis, are also in the audience. Would you please stand? There they are. Your daughter's work is phenomenal. And now for our last visual artist. I couldn't do this without including a young man. We have a very special young man, Nashan Hollis. He's the youngest of all the artists. The three young ladies are teenagers. This young man is 11 years old. He was featured in the 2004 October-November issue of the RG magazine and has been painting since he was 2 years old. From the age of 8, he has been using oils on canvas. He also uses pastels and charcoal. This 11-year-old student completed his primary school period at Elliott Primary School in June of this year, and he's now a student at Salters. He has won several competitions, and the painting he completed for the telethon held by Pride to raise funds for needy children was sold for $1,200. He is involved in sports and church activities, but his number one desire is to be a famous artist one day. When I visited his home to ask if he would accept the invitation to be a part of this concert, Mr. Premier, and to permit us to show some of his works, I was simply amazed. His parents' home is like an art gallery. Every wall, every inch of every wall is just covered with this young man's paintings. And nothing is copied. I said to him, Nashan, where do you get the ideas? Do you copy things? He said, oh no, I just see them in my mind, and I put down what I see. And now we shall take a look at Nashan's works. This one is called Mountain's Glory. How many of us could have done that at 11? The next one, please. This is Tahitian Maize. This is simply entitled Moorings. This is apples. And this last one, this painting is untitled. And that's Nashan's works. Nashan is in the audience. I'm going to ask him to come forward and take a bow. Come, Nashan. Where are you? Now, you know, I just want to steal him, don't you? And take him home. Just wonderful. Thank you so much, Nashan, for sharing that with us.
Ruthie, I liked in particular the fact that Nashan's last piece was called untitled. That is the sign of a great artist.
Oh, yes.
He always has one or two pieces that are untitled. What a visual feast. We congratulate most warmly and thank most heartily artists Ms. Camila Alameen, Ms. Shamel Painter, and of course Mr. Nashawn Hollis, and photographer Ms. Lucy Hollis, whose magnificent work, I emphasize, whose magnificent work reminded us so eloquently of the power and the beauty of the visual arts.
And I will say one thing too, what I noticed about the young ladies and also the photographers' works was that they focused a lot on faces. And some of you may remember Dick Saunders, Bermuda's well-known photographer who worked a long time in the US. We had him to give a talk to children once about photography. And one of the things he advised them to do was to take pictures of faces. That's where the heart of people, that's where you'll see the heart of a people. Take the faces. And these young people have painted the faces, and of course Lucy photographed the faces, which is just wonderful.
And they have captured the hearts of the people.
Yes.
Utterly magnificent. Ladies and gentlemen, the youngest soloist this evening is 9-year-old, I repeat, 9-year-old Shamar Morris, who was introduced to music at the ripe age of 6 months through the kinder music program at the Bermuda School of Music. At the ripe old age of 4, he began piano lessons with Miss Carol Everson and now combines that pursuit with the study of violin under Mr. David France. Shamar, who has been repeatedly described as a student of extraordinary musicality, won a $1,000 scholarship for the Bermuda School of Music at the school's annual Concert of Distinction. He's played at weddings, christenings, other community events, and at master classes. This past summer, he had the honor of performing in the presence of the Honorable Marianne Francis, Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia in Canada. But it isn't only music that demands much of Shamar's time, for he leads an amazingly full life for one of such tender years. He attends Sunday school, participates in Kung Fu classes at Wing Lam Kung Fu School, and participates in robotic workshops on Saturdays. Additionally, he's a swimmer with the Dolphin Swim Team, a versatile young man indeed. Mr. Premier, Mrs. Brown, ladies and gentlemen, we present Shamar Morris playing the third movement of Reading's Concerto in B minor. His accompanist is Ms. Olga Zadel.
That's another little boy I want to take home. I'm going to have a house full of little boys. You know, the Premier's concert invites performers in age range 10 to 21. But you will forgive me, Mr. Premier. When I saw this 9-year-old, I just couldn't refuse it. I just couldn't. He's just so wonderful.
Ruthie, I would like to comment on another aspect of Shamar's performance, and I marvel at this, as I'm sure the entire audience does. It was his composure on stage. I mean, he's completely at ease. He was a master in his element at such a young age. I don't believe that I knew what a violin was at that age.
Do you know now?
I'm learning.
But you know, that's a real tribute to his teachers, too.
Yes.
You could see the evidence of really good teaching. And his parents, you know, how supportive they must be. Thank you, parents and teachers. Now, Bobby, dance is an art form, you know, that I think beautifully displays the incredible versatility, strength, and grace of the human frame.
Yes, it is truly an amazing art form, one that is infused with myriad styles: ballet, tap, samba, flamenco, the waltz, ballroom dancing, the gavotte, the minuet, cha-cha, let's get modern, the electric slide, even something called the barnyard shuffle. Have you seen that one? You don't know anything about that. To be sure, the styles go on and on. In fact, it has been said that dance is a poem, and that each movement is a word in that poem.
Oh, yes, I love it. It sounds as though you like this art form as much as I do. But contrarily, though, you can dance, and I, sadly, have 2 left feet, no rhythm at all, and I know you can dance. I've seen you cut a rug.
Oh, yeah, some years ago, Arthur Morris wanted me to join his school as a teacher. I declined.
Last year,
I preferred.
Last year at the Premier's concert, he admitted that he wanted to be a belly, not a ballet, belly dancer, at one point.
Well, did you have to remind them of that?
Oh, yes, of course. Mr. Premier, it is dance, the hidden language of the soul, that we now present to you. The Jackson School of Performing Arts was founded in 1953 by Mrs. Louise Carpenter Jackson with an enrollment of 40 students. By 1978, the school expanded to include music, drama, and gymnastics, and had an enrollment of 600 students. Today, the school has an enrollment of nearly 800 students. In 1999, with the retirement of Mrs. Jackson, Mrs. Jeannie Leger took over the school as managing director and partner. What is gratifying is that some graduates of the Jackson School are extending the life of dance in Bermuda through the teaching of many dance genres, through the dance companies, through their dance schools, and through their choreography. Shamika Ingham, the choreographer of the ballet, which we shall see shortly, is a product of the Jackson School. She continued to study dance at the Alvin Ailey School in New York and at Fordham University. Ms. Ingham, while abroad, danced with a number of professional companies, including the Dayton Contemporary Dance Company in Ohio and the Genesis Dance Company in New York. Locally, she has performed with Civic Ballet, In Motion, the Bermuda Dance Theater, and United Dance Productions. After studying and dancing abroad, she returned to the Jackson School to teach ballet, tap, jazz, and modern dance. Currently, she is back in New York, where she has the good fortune to be apprenticing with none other than Pascal Riault. We wish for her a successful career in dance. Mr. Premier and Mrs. Brown, ladies and gentlemen, Les Filles, choreographed by Miss Shamika Ingham.
Ruthie, I'm sure you'd agree that there are few art forms more beautiful than classical ballet.
I just wish I could do it. But Mrs. Jackson would never teach me because she said I had no rhythm, no form, no anything.
Or balance.
I shall never forgive her.
Students of the Jackson School of the Performing Arts have provided numerous stellar and memorable performances during past premieres concerts. And this year's performance that we've just witnessed was no exception, as the majesty and the magnificence of the school's performance of Les Sylphides, choreographed by the ultra and multi-talented Miss Shomika Ingham, another huge Bermuda talent who is studying abroad, will live in our memories for a long, long time. Thank you once again to the Jackson School of the Performing Arts. Ladies and gentlemen, all will agree that music is a universal language, and that, as Shakespeare wrote, if music be the food of love, play on. The glistening, intricate, exciting rhythms in jazz, or even its sometimes mournful or avant-garde tones, have the sometimes inexplicable but undeniable power to hold together any group, no matter how diverse. In 1998, many of Bermuda's most talented musicians were brought together under the baton of one of our island's leading musicians and teachers of music, Mr. Wendell Shine Hayward, to form the Bermuda National Youth Jazz Ensemble. Members of that group are positive young people from both government and private schools. They love to play and are excited about the opportunities that being a member of the Bermuda National Youth Jazz Ensemble affords them. Since its inception, the Bermuda National Youth Jazz Ensemble has either attended a workshop or visited a foreign country as a cultural exchange. The ensemble's most recent trips overseas were to the Jamie Ebersole Jazz Camp in Louisville, Kentucky, and to Camp Manitou in Muskoka, Ontario. Now, 4 of these sophisticated and enormously talented individuals, Messrs. Leron Miners, Jean-Luc Gibbons, Ade Brown, and Aaron Daniels, have been brought together by Mr. Hayward to form a saxophone jazz quartet. And we're pleased to note, Mr. Premier, that tonight marks the group's first performance as a quartet. And so, Mr. Premier, ladies and gentlemen, the saxophone jazz quartet will now perform Four Winds Motion by Walter White.
You see what I mean by little boys? Don't they look good?
Mr. Wendell Shine Hayward.
to do that. I mean, that was absolutely marvelous. Very intricate, and they read beautifully. Thank you so much, not only for having them here tonight, but for giving them such wonderful training. Thank you. You know, Bobby, the Jazz Ensemble has a repertoire that is predominantly jazz, but occasionally R&B and top 40 tunes are included. So they're really very versatile. Now, Mr. Premier, we're turning our attention to a little 10-year-old girl, Brittany Ferreira. She attends the Bermuda High School. Brittany began her violin studies 5 years ago with Chase Arnold at the Bermuda School of Music. She has played in various group performances and as a soloist in several concerts. She has attended several Suzuki workshops and master classes. Brittany was one of the performers who opened for the Carol Sue Reddington and Paul DeJong's concert in 2004. She was awarded the Students of Distinction Top Performer Award in 2005. She also achieved the highest score in the Bermuda School of Music's Honors Recital in 2006. Brittany achieved a pass with high first-class honors in the Royal College of Music violin exam this year. She is a student of Lisa Hollis. Her life is crammed with the arts. She studies ballet, modern dance, and jazz through the Jackson School of Performing Arts and has performed in that school's annual dance recitals. She just completed the American Ballet Theater's 3-week intensive program here this summer. Brittany is also an equestrian and has been riding for 4 years. She won in Bermuda the overall championship for dressage, that is in her age group. Brittany also enjoys reading. Now, Mr. Premier and Mrs. Brown, Brittany Ferreira playing Vivaldi's violin concerto in A minor. She's doing the Allegro movement. Ladies and gentlemen, Brittany Ferreira. Brittany was accompanied there at the piano by Mrs. Zido. Isn't that wonderful to see these children so young, doing so well?
Ruthie, she's another young Bermudian whose composure and talent and brilliant performance belie her years. Such a young age.
So composed. Well, at this point, Bobby and I have to chat again because they're setting up for the steel band backstage, and that takes a lot of setting up. I think they have 18 players, but of course they have far more instruments because some of the children play 2 and 3 instruments. So there are loads of instruments back there.
Ruthie, this provides me with a perfect opportunity to say something that I hoped I would have the opportunity to say. As Ms. Dietz performed so magnificently earlier, as she sang opera, yes, I was reminded that in this very room, about 6 weeks ago, we had one of the great sopranos of the world, Miss Kathleen Battle, in performance. And I dare to say that just as Miss Battle graces concert halls, opera halls of the world, from Milan to London to New York, one day we shall have a Bermudian do that. And I see in front of me Mrs. Marcel Clemens,
another great singer,
our own great Bermudian opera singer. There she is, Miss Marcel Clemens. And I sincerely believe that there are other young people who will follow Miss Clemens' wonderful example and that extraordinary example of Miss Kathleen Battle.
And I do think that
the world.
Mrs. Clemens, I think, teaches voice. And that is something that is needed, ladies and gentlemen. There are so few teachers of voice. And there are lots of children who are singing, but they don't get the correct training so that they sing off the throat, and eventually their little voices wear out. But it's nice to find every now and then someone on the island who can teach voice and who knows what they're doing.
And we have an expert in Miss Clemens. Ruthie, we haven't in the program this year any drama. There's no acting. However, I am reminded that, and I think I read in the weekend papers, that Bermuda's great, great actor, Mr. Earl Cameron, who's in a recent film, I might add, The Interpreter, is going to be honored next year by the International Film Festival. But guess what? We have in the house another Bermuda film actor.
I wonder if anybody in the audience knows who that is. Ooh.
Good, somebody at the back
Somebody at the back knows. A young man who's in the film that will be, I think it'll be start showing next month, Dreamgirls.
Dreamgirls, shot recently. He's in the house, he's back in Bermuda, and he is assisting backstage. I told him I would ask him to come forward in order to say something to us. He said he was much too busy, but he cannot ignore my request on the Premier's behalf to come out here now. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask Mr. Darren Herbert, Bermuda's own Mr. Darren Herbert, to come forward and join us for a few minutes. Yeah. Now, Darren will share with us just something about his most recent project, what he's been doing on the West Coast, and the tremendous success. Yeah, he's working back there. But tell us something about your wonderful career in Hollywood.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, one and all. I promise to keep it brief, but I'll let you know that the going is hard, but I'm a hard worker. So you'll be seeing me in Dreamgirls. It premieres December 25th. I believe. I don't know when it will open here, but I'm working hard to represent. So I hope I make you all proud. And I appreciate, on behalf of my family and friends, I appreciate the prayers and support, because every day that I'm out there, I need it, especially when I'm not eating. But thank you all very much.
Thank you, Darren. And we wish you the best of luck in what we're sure will be a wonderful, wonderful career in acting.
I want Darren to remember when he's way at the top there, very famous, that he and I were on stage together once.
I mean, when one day soon when he's telling Denzel to step aside.
Oh, yes.
We'll remind him. What did you perform with him, Ruthie?
We were in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet.
Fantastic.
Do you, Bobby, you know, I think you would make a wonderful actor. Couldn't you see him in a Shakespearean play?
Oh, yes. I wonder what my favorite role would be. Don't dare guess.
No, I don't.
Not a tyrant. Not a tyrant.
Not a tyrant.
So don't say Macbeth or...
No, King Lear.
No. What about Romeo? She agrees.
Actually, Romeo was 16, Bobby.
I take Romeo.
So I don't know if they're ready yet. They haven't given us a signal. I can still hear things banging. I don't think they're quite ready.
Well, if I do the intro, I'm sure they'll be ready by
yes.
that time. Ladies and gentlemen, the history of music in Bermuda has its roots in church music. That is, in those extremely staid, conservative, sometimes stiff, in the minds of some, hymns found in ancient Church of England hymnals. Then, be careful, I heard someone laughing at Church of England hymns. Some of us are Anglicans, Ruthie.
Well, she's a member of the Anglican Church, too.
Yes, she is. And Anne Southampton. Then, through the English and Scottish military music was woven into our cultural identity. And of course, we still love band music. Today, more recently, through travel and technology, we're exposed to the music of the world, some of which we've embraced and call our very own. Many years ago, the steel pan not only made its way to our shores from Trinidad, but has taken up permanent residence. 10 years ago, the Ministry of Education...
2 years ago.
Sorry.
Would
2
you
years
like my
ago,
glasses?
the Ministry of Education, through one of its music teachers, Mrs. Janice Edwards Pearman of Trinidad, introduced steel pan music to 2 of our government primary schools, Paget Primary and Heron Bay Primary, where lessons were given during the lunch hour and after school. This evening, during the Premier's Concert 2006, former students of Paget Primary will demonstrate their expertise at steel pan. Although they have graduated from Paget Primary, they continue to take lessons from Mrs. Pearman after school. They have performed at many events around the island, and for tonight have pulled together from their extensive repertoire Trumpet Voluntary and Carol of the Bells. Mr. Premier, Mrs. Brown, ladies and gentlemen, we present in performance former students of Paget Primary School on the steel pan, under direction of Mrs. Janice Pearman.
Thank you so much, boys and girls, and thank you, Mrs. Pearman, for sharing your culture with us. That was absolutely wonderful.
All I want to say is, Trinidad and Tobago, watch out, Bermuda's the coming.
Oh, yes. I think we got a long way to go, though, Bobby. Did you notice that the children were reading music? All the children tonight are professionally trained, and they can read music. And you notice the level of concentration and the focus. You know, Sir Edwin Leather, one of our former governors, always used to say, if you teach that child music, the child with another group of children will make music and not war. And all of those children tonight were there together, cooperating together, playing together. And if they didn't concentrate on one another and cooperate, just one person didn't, then that would throw the whole thing off. So there are far more benefits from learning to play an instrument than just learning to play that instrument. We are so proud of our children. Well, Bobby, I think we have to talk some more because they haven't finished taking the instruments off. What can you say? You're never lost for words.
Well, I'm obliged. And as a former teacher, I was admiring not only their musicality, but how immaculately turned out they were.
Yes.
And I always take note of that. And I think it's something about which we can be very proud in Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
They are looking fantastic.
Yes. And did you notice the little boys again?
Oh, yes.
Gorgeous.
Well, we do lead the way.
He's going to spoil himself now.
Do we recall any past premiers concerts when we've had the steel band?
I don't know. We had the bells.
Maybe Bermuda Institute many years
They did
ago.
once, yes.
Had
A
steel
long time
band,
ago.
many years ago.
In the early years. Because remember, this is 22 years now.
22.
Yes.
And the journey, ladies and gentlemen, started, as Ruth said, at the old Bermudiana Hotel. From there, we moved to City Hall Theatre, I think, then to the old Ruth Seaton James Auditorium, then back to City Hall, then back to the new Ruth Seaton James, and then tonight here at the Berkeley Institute.
And here tonight, we're here tonight, thankfully, to the school, but we're here because the Ruth Seaton James Auditorium was not available to us, and because of that, we lost a group. We had a group of dancers, the Dance Foundation. 34 children are in that dance group, but this stage cannot accommodate them. And I say that, Mr. Premier, carefully. And I say it, Mr. Minister of Community and Cultural Affairs, just to re-alert you to the fact that we do need a real proper concert hall. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard me. You're all my witnesses. Thank you. And now we are going to turn our attention to a young lady, another violinist, Kelsey Ball. Through music organizations such as the Bermudian Foundation, the Bermuda School of Music, and many individual music teachers, scores of local children are studying stringed instruments. Many reach levels of proficiency, as has already been demonstrated this evening. One such student is the highly talented 17-year-old Kelsey Ball, who began playing the violin via the Suzuki method at the age of 3. At age 8, she started to learn to play the flute and is as proficient on the flute as she is with the violin. In fact, later this month, she will sit the Royal Schools of Music Grade 8 flute examination, and we wish her success in that exam. This young lady, whose two passions are music and cooking, excels academically. She is currently in her second year in the International Baccalaureate program at the Bermuda High School. In June of this year, her violin recital program included works from Corelli, Mozart, Handel, and Severn. It is Severn's Polish dance that she has chosen to perform this evening. Mr. Premier and Mrs. Brown, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kelsey Ball, accompanied at the piano by Miss Olga Zeidel. Kelsey, thank you so much. That was absolutely wonderful. Thank you. You know, I tried to get her to do a flute solo, but she's promised to do that for me another time. But she's just magnificent, isn't she? Isn't she wonderful?
Versatility. The sensitivity with which she played the violin
yes.
was extraordinary.
Oh, yes.
A dazzling performance.
Yes.
And Kelsey, we extend to you best wishes for continued success, not only in music, but in your academic career also. We know that huge success beckons. Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, our next individual performer, 14-year-old Ben Lusher, might well be called Mr. Versatility because of his diverse musical talents. Music has been an integral part of Ben's life since he began piano lessons at the age of 4. Although his first and strongest love is the piano, he has for the past 4 years been playing the alto saxophone and singing as well. At Warwick Academy, he performs in 4 of the school bands. During the last 2 summers, he has attended the Litchfield, Connecticut Jazz Summer Camp and has performed also at the Jazz Festival events that followed. Earlier this year, this remarkably talented young Bermudian accompanied the Lions Club to represent Bermuda in New York, where he played with the Lions Club band. An undoubted highlight in his rapidly blossoming music career occurred in May of this year when he won the Bermuda Teen Idol competition, success that has led to many additional musical opportunities. He was the opening act for a United Dance Productions show in the early summer, and also for rhythm and blues singer, actor, and dancer Chris Brown when he visited our island early this year. And just over 2 weeks ago, Ben performed in Marcel Clamens' Talent Explosion show at the City Hall Theatre. He is very passionate about music and, not surprisingly, hopes to pursue a career as a professional musician. Mr. Premier, Mrs. Brown, ladies and gentlemen, we present 14-year-old Ben Lusher, accompanied by Messrs. Nick Watson on drums and Leroy Richardson on bass, as he performs 2 numbers, Misty and I Get a Kick Out of You. Ben Lusher.
See, Premier, we need a revolving stage.
Ruthie, don't ask for too much. Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to help me out. I'm really trying here. Ben is quite the professional, you know. He's very particular. He wanted to know about this auditorium. Was it okay? Is there a good piano there? You know, what does the sound like? He made sure that everything was right before he agreed to be in this concert. And I just love that. That's the mark of a professional.
Technical difficulty. Sorry about that. Our first tune will be Misty.
Look at me.
I'm as
Helpless as a kitten up a tree.
and I feel like I'm
Clinging to a cloud. I can't understand. I get misty. Just holding your hand. Walk my way. And 1,000 violins begin to play. Or it might be the sound of your hello. That music I hear, I get misty the moment you're near. You can say that you're leading me on, but it's just what I want you to do. Don't you notice how hopelessly I'm lost? That's why I'm following you. On my own. Would I wander through this wonderland alone, never knowing my right foot from my left, my hat from my glove? I'm too misty and too much in love.